Hello viewers, welcome to Mindmajix, your skill partner. As per the viewers' comments received for the Power BI video, we have come up with yet another video on Power BI DAX. But before we move on, don't forget to subscribe to your YouTube channel for all the interesting career updates. DAX stands for Data Analysis Expressions for Enhanced Business Intelligence Data Analyzation. Since DAX is a library of functions and operators, in this video we have briefed all about DAX Functions, DAX Operators, DAX Syntax and DAX Queries. Also, we will explore on DAX Calculation Types and how to add measures to report. So let's get started with the DAX Overview first.
I'm going to start with the topic today, which is the DAX, and that's one of the main ways to start off any work on the Power BI. DAX works like Excel formulas. If you have worked on Excel before, then probably you will get familiar with DAX pretty well, because it consists of the formulas. It's a way that how you will drive any sort of analysis or the output of anything that you are willing to have on your dashboard. Today's topic, this topic has been divided for 2 days because it's a very important one, and that's the base of doing any analysis. Whether you have a small data or you have a big data, you need to know all the formulas where you want to drive the sales, you want to drive the previous year numbers, you want to drive count, whatever that you want to do has to come out of DAX. So this particular topic has been divided into 2 days, but we'll see whatever we'll cover today. So the topic is going to focus on for a basic understanding of what DAX is, what has been the importance of DAX, what are the types of DAX that you will see, and then what are the calculation types. How do you create the columns, the measures? What is the syntax when you want to work on the Power BI? How the syntax will go to work? DAX functions, the operators which are there. How would you DAX queries? What are the parameters in the DAX? That's we're going to cover in the session. And after completing this module, you should be able to know what is DAX. You will be able to do the calculation type, the functions, the advanced calculations which are there. Then you will be able to put time intelligence function, which is like for the same month, what is the output of the previous year in the same month? These are the kind of mathematics which is behind DAX, and you will be able to understand it and then put it across to Power BI once you're done with this session. DAX analysis, something that is called data analysis expression language in a formula language used throughout Power BI. Okay, so this is a very common language just as in Excel formulas. DAX is a collection of function operators and constant that can be used in a formula or expression to calculate and return one or multiple values. Which means, like whenever you want to do a formula in Excel, you want to get a number which is a combination of some certain sum of the numbers. That's how you drive it, right? You just put a sum, put a bracket, and you will get the total of the numbers that you have given. So same way the DAX will also function. It is just that the syntax for DAX is little different than what you use in a Excel. So this DAX formulas usually, this Power BI is not the generator of DAX function. DAX was usually used under Power Pivot in the SAS applications that we have used in past, which is the main SQL Server data and SSAS tabular format. So we've used DAX there as well. So let's understand why DAX is important, guys. So DAX is basically will help you in learning how to create effective DAX formulas. It will help you get the most out of your data. So any information that you want to put across on a Power BI data visualization front end tool, DAX will be the formulas which will be driving your output, whether it is total sales, whether it is the impacted sales, whether it is the region-wise analysis, whatever it is going to come out from the DAX formulas. It has the capability to create reports that show valuable insights easy when calculation over a large data is needed. So you will have a lot of line items. Right now, you're using the Excel for class, but when eventually you will start using Power BI, it will be done on the data sets, which is based out of your traditional data, right, which could be saved under the cloud or on premises. So to take out or fetch any information from there, it is not easy to put an Excel formula. So what DAX will do is going to drive your formulas to into the practicality and put it on the canvas. Now, when you get the information you need, you can begin to solve real business problems easily with the help of measures. So, these measures will go to give you what is the business problem areas. You have to highlight as part of the analysis that you perform in Power BI. There are two elements. One is you go to showcase whatever is going good, whatever is into the rhythm. That's fine. You will showcase that, and it's not the area of concern for everyone. But at the same time, you also need to trigger what are the challenges and what is the issues that you can see in the future coming up. So that's where also you need to put the triggers, and you need to drive that through a formula which is under the DAX. So we'll see what are the data types in DAX. Basically, we have everything that can be put under DAX. You also have a numeric, you have a string, you have currencies, you have dates, you have booleans like true and false, you will have decimals. So DAX will want to understand each and every data type, and it will start populating the information as per the instruction that you will give to the DAX. So DAX may also pick up the information which says bad sales and give me the output how many bad sales we've got in prior locations. So that is something that is the responsibility of a DAX to do it. So that will make the life easier for any analyst to present the data. What are the DAX types? There are two types of DAX formulas, a calculation type, which is a calculated column and a calculated measure. What is calculated column? Calculated column is they're a part of the table in your data set. If you want to add something to that table, you will use calculated columns. And anything which is done on the fly or as a use on the visualization. So for an example, you want to check the count of the stores, which is not existing in your data sets, okay, which is in these files, you will not get the count of the stores. What you do is you put a measure just on the top of the Power BI saying that please pick the locations, count of the locations of the store. That will give you the number of stores that you have in each location. So you put that as a fly on a front end where you can see all the fields on the Power BI desktop. So that's what you call calculated measure. So this is the thin line difference between calculated column and calculated measure. Calculated column will change anything you put under calculated column. It will go back to your data set and it will populate the information to your existing data set. If you add anything to Power BI and update it as a calculated column, it will also change your data set which is existing as a base. You're able to see my Power BI desktop. So on the top panel, you will be able to see here, on the top panel, you will be able to see this new column. Okay, now when you do this, it will add to a new column here, and then you can drive it to a formula and say that what you want to drive here. So this is where you go to the new column, right? When we just saw in the Power BI desktop, you click there and you will be able to get this, which says column equal to. This is where you will drive your formula of the DAX. There, for an example, you want to put, there is a date, okay, on the columns. It says time start. You want to put a month to it. You don't want to capture it as a date because what happens is generally from the system, the date which picks from the system is with a complete date and the time print on it. So you want to just get a month out of whatever the data is saying. So you put a new column and put a DAX formula to just have a month and a year with you. So you can drive this on a column. That's what the purpose of column is. So you will be able to see in this example where what you're trying to do is create some unique ID for the transactions which has happened. So I have given a formula here which says transaction minimum customer ID and transaction merchant ID. The difference between the both will give you another set of a unique number. So I've created a unique number and you just put enter. Okay, that's it. So that's how you'll drive the new column into a desktop. Now let's say if there's a scenario. Suppose that you are asked to find out total sales of all the product across the world. And this is a very usual and very, most asked things under Power BI. So basically these type of analysis is going to come up. So whatever that I'm going to cover under DAX is going to be all industry standard. These are the very common things that a Power BI analyst should know. And it's not a rocket science, guys. It's very simple. Once you know them, you'll be having the confidence to drive any analysis. So it says that how will you drive it? How will you do that? So DAX measure, of course, is the answer, but how will you do that? Let's see. So when I say a measure, calculate a measure, you can see this on the right-hand side pane of the Power BI. When you open a Power BI, you will and upload any data, you will have the fields here, which will show you the tables. Okay. Under table, it is likely possible that you don't have a measure which says net sales, but you will have to drive it. So how you do it? On the fly on this particular table on the front end. So this net sales is drive through a measure. What is a measure? Measure are used in some of the most common data analysis such as sums, averages, net, minimum, maximum, count. These are the measures that you drive on a particular column. So your data is almost in a great format to be used under Power BI. Now, when you want to put the analysis, you will tell the Power BI, give that instruction to Power BI saying that I want to draw a net sales. Right? So how will you drive a net sale as a formula that we'll cover later. We'll do all the important formulas that you should know under Power BI, and then you can start using it. So how you add a new measure is, there are two ways. One is on the top panel that you see as a ribbon. You see this new measure. So you click here, it will pop up the same screen as we saw into a new column. So that's going to be the same type, or else what you can do is on the fields here on the right pane, you will see 3 ellipses here. So just click on that. One of the option is new measures. So there you can go ahead and just click new measures and it will pop up the screen like this where it says measures. So you will name it. Always remember that whatever name that you are going to give should be unique. Even the headers that you have on the files will have a unique name. Your formulas, your new column and your measures should have a unique name. It cannot be two, because then Power BI will get confused. What do I have to pick? First of all, Power BI will not let you generate any measure or a column which is common in any of the other existing files. So for Power BI to understand which measure to put, which file to put or which column to pick up, you have to give a unique name to the file. Here you see, instead of measure, what the file has done is I'm giving total sales equal to. So this is how I'm going to drive the DAX formula for a new sales. Total sales that I'm going to record. Then what do we do is total sales equal to, just like in an Excel formula you say equal to sum and all that. Same way goes with the Power BI. Every formula will start with the equal to, and then you start putting your aggregations or the measures that you want to put. So equal to sum. Then you put the formula name and it will automatically start coming. So it has AI into it which will start giving you the functions and the formulas on its own. Once you type, if you type S, it will give you all the pop-ups of whatever the formulas existing under S. Whether it is A, it is formula alphabetic wise. Whatever alphabet that you will type there, it will automatically start giving you the formulas which is existing in Power BI. This total sales equal to sum of what? Sum is so it's giving you the instruction of a string, of a table. So first it will pick up the table, from which table you have to pick the sum. And then you give a understanding of which table and which column. So I have given this order sales first, and then you just close the bracket because I need the sum of that particular column only. Okay, so you just close the bracket and push enter. Once you push enter, you will see the measure here. If you've put in anything wrong, which is not acceptable from Power BI, formula will show an error. It will show a red color hyphen or a triangle between a hyphen. It will show that pop-up saying that this argument is conflicting. It happens. Even in Excel, you put some wrong formulas and it turns out to be NA. So similarly, even in Power BI, it will throw you that error and tell you that this is not the correct argument you're putting in. What I have done is I've just simply picked the sum of the order table, which says total. In the order table, there is a column which is called sales, like per unit sales or per product sales. I've just done a total of it to get the total sales. Okay, now how do we put this measure into a report? It's very simple, guys. So once you have the data set in front of you on the right side, you just have to pick the measure on the canvas. So even if you select this, you can see here, even if you've selected this checkbox, right? Even if you just put this check, it will automatically come on the canvas. And then you can put other fields to it. So drag the total sales measure from the order table onto the report canvas and then the country field from the order table. You pick any of the function, like, you pick any of, like I've put in the country here. So the moment you will put a check mark here, it will automatically come on the canvas. Okay, so this is basically given a profit. So what we've done is we've added a profit to the countries. So we wanted to showcase here, drag the profit field into the chart. In the same chart, you can just drag it, or you can also do a check. So the moment you will do the check, it will automatically, the Power BI has that understanding to let you know where that profit will exist in the chart. That's a very simple thing that you can try, because I'm not going to cover the elements of how you draw to the canvas, because that's my next topic after DAX. But just to give you an understanding how it functions under DAX is, this is the country and this is the DAX formula that you're using, right? So you just simply put a check mark on it and it will come on the canvas. What is the DAX syntax? So when you see here on the formula bar, like, this sum order says, this is nothing but a syntax. You're giving a DAX syntax to a report. There are few requirements for the DAX formula expression language. A DAX formula always starts with an equal sign. Remember this always, because this is the thumb rule of any DAX formula. After this, you can provide any expression that evaluates to a scalar, or an expression that can be converted to a scalar. So basically, a scalar is the output that you want to get. Anything that you want to make readable on the Power BI, you have to use a formula starting with equal. So this is divided into 4 main parts, which is like operators, references, arguments, expressions. What are these basically? Let's get started with operators. So operators is something where you give an instruction to a formula saying this is equal to, this is greater to, this is less than, or you want to concatenate, you want to find out what is the difference between the both, will come out of operators. Next is a reference. What is more important in DAX is DAX will only understand when you will give them the references. So basically you have to make them understand which table and which column you want to refer to. So which is where you want to put this, from where you want to drive this formula. So from a table X, column Y, in that particular table, you want to give the reference of a formula to that table. So that's what you call the references. These are the pillars. These are the 4 pillars of DAX syntax. An argument is something that you put a comma, you put a if, you put and. So these are called the arguments in the DAX formula, that you want to put this and that, or you want to put a comma, or you want to put a addition, or you want to do a subtraction. So this is all an argument. Expression is something that you want to make them understand that this is particular entire row that I said sum total sales is an expression that you're giving to a DAX function, which completes the DAX formula. So these are the more major 4 pillars of DAX, and this is the general terms that you should be aware of if you're using Power BI, and if somebody asks DAX and it says what are the operators, okay, have you put in this operator or not, what is the argument that you could give. These are the common terminologies that you should be aware of. These are the types of DAX operators, which is like understood as in the screen. But just to give you a deeper knowledge is, arithmetic operators is very simple, guys. It's a formula which is basically a mathematics, a plus, a minus, a multiplication, a division. Exponential is used basically when you want to drive something into, you have a number presenting into crores. You all understand crores will have at least 7 digit to it, or even a million will have at least a 5 or a 6 digit to it. But on the canvas, you may not find it good to represent under 7 digit or a 6 digit number. So we give a formula to a DAX saying with this exponential to convert it into 2 digit or a 3 digit number. So that's how we say, and the Power BI has that capability to represent it into millions, or you can give an exponential to convert it into some other currency that you want to. This exponential is basically help us to drive that. Comparison operators, it is like when you want to do equal to, greater than, less than. These are the comparison operators. Text concatenation operator is basically to join 2 formulas or 2 columns or 2 measures into one. So when you want to, for an example, you must have used this in Excel and you can correlate this. Then you want to join certain 2 names. So you have first name in one column or a second name in the second column. You want to have one complete name, so you concatenate both the columns. So in DAX formula, concatenation is basically symbolized as with this function AND. So when you put this function AND, this AND will go into brackets, will concatenate 2 different columns or whatever that you want to concatenate. Logical expression is basically you want to give AND or if the condition is if this particular location exists and has this sale, please give me this output. So that's a logical expression that you're trying to drive. So these are the 4 divisions of the DAX operators, which You can correlate. It's coming out of Excel only. It's coming from the same Excel formulas, but it's represented in a little different format in DAX. DAX queries, that's what DAX queries is all about. That's called so the syntax is nothing but a DAX query. You are trying to take out a measure, giving them, if any one of you has worked on the SQL formulas, so you will be able to correlate this syntax. Basically, this is trying to drive some output where you're instructing a system or a data set to pick up a measure, give the output from a particular table, order it by date into an ascending or descending manner, which is starting from so and so. So this is just a syntax, guys. So this is something that you do at a backend on the SQL server or a SQL analysis that you want to do. Similar sort of in DAX is known as DAX queries. You can also use the DAX queries on the SQL Server Management Studio. It's very similar to the SQL functions that we give to the data sets. So whenever you have, Microsoft BI, which is like the traditional on-premises data sources like SSIS, SSAS, they all understand the SQL language. They're very compatible to the SQL language. So anything that you want to drive within the data set, it is usually derived from a SQL language. So that's the DAX is coming from there only, but in a simplified manner that even a non-technician or the non-technical background people can also use it, like, how we do in Excel. So, okay, moving on to the DAX functions. On the screen that you can see is the basic DAX formulas, which you should know. Whenever you have to use a situation, all your formulas will be existing to this universe, which says aggregation. Aggregation is like sum, average, minimum, sum x. These are your aggregation. Counting is something you want to take out the count of whatever quantity is existing. When you want to do the count x, when you will use count blank, count rows. These are your counting aggregations. Logical is very understood as we've covered previously, and or not if. These are the situational based logical theories that you're giving to the system. Information. When we want to drive some situations like, if this column is blank, then give me 1. At times you also have to do it in the data. As you are doing it in the Excel, you also have to do it in the data. So you start using the information DAX, which says if this is a text, if it is a string, give me this value. If is error, I'm not sure if you use this formula in the Excel often, but is error is a very often used formula to drive month till date numbers. If there is an error, why we do this is because if there is, let's say, a div, a number which is not existing in the cell, so how the Excel reads it, when you have to sum the data, it will give you an error. So what we do is we give an instruction to Excel that please don't give an error when you sum this data because there is a blank cell there. So that is the information that you're passing to the Excel, and similarly you will have to pass the same information to a DAX, to a Power BI, through a DAX. That's what the information DAX is all about. Date. Now you will have date in a different various formats. At times, there is no date table as such which is existing, and you have to drive the date table because date is something very important, one of the very important tables in any of the analysis that you do. Everyone, when you are doing the analysis, everyone would want to see a month-wise data or a year-wise data, what has been the progress over the year, over the past few couple of days, so and so forth. So everything that you do, guys, is aligned with a date. So at times there is a possibility that you do not have a date in your table, but you have to make a date table. So it is a very simple funda how to make a date table. Text. Now text is something that you use to give an instruction saying that do this to the particular column or a row. So you want to join two names. In a data set, you have two different names. You want to have one whole name of maybe seller or customer. You concatenate that. You want to find out what is the total, length of the formula. Then you will going to have to give a formula saying length of the table. So len is basically length. Replace. You want to how to replace a value. So if you have blank cells, you can convert those blank cells into the zero in the data sets itself. How will you do it? By using a replace function. Let's understand this. This is a scenario. How conveniently we managed to calculate the total sales using the sales column. Now, what if we didn't have the sale value and only have a quantity and a sales per unit value? In such cases, we use SumX. There may be a lot of scenarios, guys, when you don't have the total sales. Okay, you don't have a calculated column. You have only the sales and the quantity. So X order number, 5 quantity of pens has been taken and the sales per pen is this per pen. So one pen may cost you, let's say, $2. Then you have to take out the total value. So this is the level of the data that you usually get to do the analysis. In any organization, maybe whether it is driving for a retail sector or for a manufacturing sector, this is how they maintain the data, because they also want to make sure what is my per product sale has been. Usually in those data sets, you will use giving an expression or want to use the sum and you want to drive the totals. So same as we use the total sales, SumX is a formula which will simply pick up the entire information and give you the total output. So you can see on the screen here where I have tried the total sales same. So in previous table, just to give an understanding what was the difference between the previous calculation and this calculation, in previous one we already had the sales. Here we have to drive the sales for a product. Here it says quantity wise sales, there it was already multiplied. So each quantity was already multiplied with the amount and given you with the sales value. Here we have to drive the sales value and then take out the total sales. So what you will going to do is you will do the SumX of order table. So basically you have to pick up the order table and the quantity which is already existing here. So you can see this is the quantity. Right, on the right side you will see this is the quantity. You will multiply it with the sales per unit. So you will go to have this sales per unit order. It's already existing in the table. So when you will multiply this and do the SumX, SumX is the total of both. SumX is an expression which you're saying that you will multiply the per unit cost and then give me the total. So this is what the formula that you have to use to do the SumX. Let's move on to the aggregation. We all understood that this is the aggregation function which is giving you the aggregate of the totals of the column where the numbers will be representing. The formulas could be either the sum, the average. You can pick up the minimum, you can pick up the maximum of entire row. You can do the SumX, which will be the total of, let's say when you want to take out the pricing of a product when you have a unit price and quantity, right? Per unit price and a quantity. So how would you take that out is through SumX. So special aggregation functions that end in X, such as SumX, can work on multiple columns. So this is one of the feature that you can note that anything which is ending, any function which is ending with X can be used under multiple columns. These functions iterate through the table and evaluate the expression for each row. So you can just do the SumX of column 1, column 2, column 3. So this actually works on the separate columns together in one formula. So that's the difference between a normal function which is there and a function which ends with X. Now there is a scenario. Now you know what are aggregate functions, and you have also learned to find the total sales. What if you are asked to find the total number of orders placed by the people across the world? Okay, just note this down. It says find the total number of orders placed by people across the world. Then count function helps you to do that. How? Let's see that. In DAX function, the syntax will be, you will just as in Excel that you used to do, count and give the reference to the formula. So the row or the column that you're trying to count. So similarly, that's what you're going to do under DAX, as there are a lot of similarities between the Excel function and the DAX function. So you will simply do the syntax that you can see in the screen. You give equal to count, give the reference of a column which you want to count. So you can see an example on the screen where you've just counted the order quantities. You will pick up the table which is the order table and you will do the count of the quantity which is existing. So here in the right side in the field you will see there will be one order table and you will see the order quantity table, like not the table but the column, order quantity column. So simply do this count of this particular column. You will get the output. Now total count of the orders from across the globe. You have, right? You've calculated it, it's done. But what if someone asks you to find out the number of orders of a particular product? So you will see the count that there is product X which comes as a count as 100. But what they're trying to say is, what if someone wants to ask or want to find out the number of order for a particular product? Of the product X, what is the quantity, like number of orders that you've been placed? So in that case, the count function won't work because you've already taken account of the order. So you have to use a countX function here. So be very cautious of the scenarios, because your functions, you may put the functions, but then that function will not give you the output. So you need to understand where to use which sort of a formula. So here it says if you want to pick a count of even the deeper insight of a product as to what order type or a quantity has been picked or ordered from a specific product, countx will be the function that you will use. So the syntax remains the same. You will simply put the countx and give the table reference, which is the table, and what is the expression, which is the column where you want to pick that information from. So you will see on my screen which says calculated column, count x, filter. Filter means what? Okay, let me tell you what is filter. Filter is like under this table, pick this name. So you will going to do the filtering of the column, saying that I don't want anything else, I just want this information. So you are giving a reference here. In this screen, you will see you're giving the reference of a product name. You're saying that Boston Sketchpad watercolor. This is what you want to know. This is your order X. That's what you want to know. So you will filter that from the column. So you will instruct Power BI saying, filter the data which is existing in the order table, pick up only the order name by filtering it with the name which is specified, and give me the order quantity. So that's what we will be doing when we have to pick a deeper inside of a count, which says a count of this particular product is fine. But if I want to know what has been the country-wise production of the specific orders for each product, then you would have to filter the product name. By filtering product name, you will get the output. There you will be using countx function. So this is just a quick intro of all the count functions which are existing there, and you will also find in the description what has been the kind of an understanding as to why you use that particular function. Count, count blank, count row. By the way, the name in itself is, just let you know what is the function, what is the difference between each. So obviously the count rows will be giving you the number of columns number of rows which are existing. Count blank will give you the number of blank cells which are existing, so that you can replace. So you know what is if you want to pick something from the blank column also under the analysis, you can simply do that. The count x, we just covered how we do the count x. What is the criteria under which we will have this particular formula, which is known as count x. Now getting skilled with every step is difficult. How we'll solve this? You have to classify the products based on the sales made. If function in DAX might help you. Why do we actually use if function? What we are trying to do is we give the checks to the Power BI saying that if this is existing, give me this. It is very simple. Why we use if function is giving certain sort of logic to a column or a row or an analysis. We want to pick up some Boolean points which is true or false, stating that if this particular item is greater than 1000, give me the output as true, and if it is less than 1000, give me the item as false. And then you simply pick the count of the false or the true to do the certain analysis in a specific situation. So this gives you a logical test. This function will give you a logical test in Power BI, same as what you used to do in Excel. But where are the scenarios? How will you use it actually in Power BI? It's not like Excel, right? You will just not put the formula and simply pick it up in Power BI. Power BI will not understand that. So under DAX, what you will do is, let's say for the given scenario, what you will do is product sales. If order is, you can see on the screen, there is a formula which is written in the if function that says if for orders under the order table, and you will see a column which is known as profit. So this is giving an instruction saying that pick up an order table, and under order table you have to pick order profit column which has less than 10 digit. You will see a profit here which says a number. There is a number specified here. So we are giving an instruction here saying that if anything which is appearing less than 10, give that value as need improvement, or else this comma will give you an or else kind of a feature. If order profit table is less than 25, then you give considerable, or you give if anything other than these two, then give discounts. So and then just simply press enter. So this is the new column that you've added, and you can see the output here, and you can also correlate here. See. So it says give discount. Where is it giving discount? Where it is 28.62, which is above 25. So we instructed here. So anything which is less than 25, you give considerable. Anything less than 10 will give needs improvement. And anything other than that, you will give discount. So you can see in the column, they have picked up the right sources here. So anything which is less than 10, you can see here 2.5, it gives the output as needs improvement. So that's how your if function is going to work. It's similar to It is very similar to your Excel function, but little bit of new things which are added to maintain this formula under Power BI, as Power BI will understand DAX functions. Now let's coming over to a logical function. Now these functions evaluate some single value or result of the expression and give a Boolean output, some important logical functions, which is and, or, not, if we've already covered. So AND is a function which checks the argument, says, you can see the example here. It says if AND sales greater than discount, then profit less than discount. So this is basically consisting of two scenarios. You have to consider two scenarios together. So you will use AND function. OR function which gives you a bifurcation, either this or that. So you will choose a OR function, but it starts with if, but you will still, while you open the bracket, you will let the Power BI know what you want to do. You want to do OR you want to do AND. You want to do it together, you want to do it, you want to do one of it. Then similarly is the NOT. NOT logical is basically will give you true or a false feature. So whether it is a profit or non-profit, give me true or false. So that's what a NOT logical function will do, and if we've already covered above. Let's cover the information function now. Information is, guys, is similar to if you perform this in Excel if you use the Excel to a greater extent, you will be able to correlate what is information function. So information function is actually ruling out the errors in the formula. What happens is when in the Excel, you see a formula which is placed on a column. You will find lot of places where you will find div. When you do a multiplication, let's say you do a multiplication with a digit and you see a 0 is being multiplied, the output will not be 0. Most of the time it gives you div. Or if it is a blank cell, it will give you div. So to Power BI to understand, to pick up the sum, if there is a div existing in the column, Power BI will not give you the result, right? It will show an error in the sense that it will not pick up the result and the measure will not give you the output. So therefore, when you use in the Excel, you will similarly use is error, is blank, is text, and you replace them, right? So you will see is blank, example in the city. If there is any blank cell existing in the city, then you will, and if you're giving the output as true, then what you probably will do is you will replace true to 0 number. The idea to get this particular formulas is to replace the value which is existing. So this will give you an information of what is actually existing in your data set. Move on to the text function. Text function is basically understanding the words which is written in the column or a row. In what scenarios do we use that? So for an example, you want to concatenate. Concatenate means you want to join. You want to have a concatenation of a profit and a sale. So how much was the profit and how much was the sale? So you concatenate that. If there is a first name and a last name separately written in the column, there is no significance of having a first and the last name into two different columns. So you will simply concatenate those columns and give the output to a third column. Len is nothing but the number of characters which is existing in a text. And you want to do certain analysis which would require you to understand what are the number of characters which is there in the text. Then you will pick it up from this formula which says len. So like, let's say on the right side you say city. So if you have as an example as in Hyderabad, so you pick the reference len Hyderabad under this bracket, and it will give you the number of characters which is existing in Hyderabad. So that's what the purpose of len is. Replace, we have seen, guys, we've done it previously that what replace does, replace will actually replace the value which is existing in the column or a row. When you typically want to do it and if you feel that something is wrong or something needs a change, so you go ahead and do this replace formula under Power BI through a Power Query. And lower is nothing but it's converting the case, right? We've seen in the Excel how we've converted the text string to a lower case or an upper case. So similarly, you may want to do that when you want to do certain analysis and you want to showcase that under a screen. Then you want to change this to lower or an upper. So similar sort of formulas will go to work for you. So date is something, guys, is very, very important. It is kind of helps you with the time intelligence. Every analysis that you will do will going to be consisting of dates. that we all know, because whenever you do certain analysis for any sort of a management or a manager or a stakeholder, everybody would want to know what's going on at present, what was the comparison for the previous year, what has been the comparison of the current year. So all these revolves around date function. Typically in a scenario, what happens is, I have done this analysis for various organizations, and every organization will have a different calendar year. So everybody follows a different policies, like for every location. So maybe in India, the fiscal year is April till March. In US, it could be July till June. In Australia, it could be October till September. So every place will have a different time zone where they capture the information in the system and how they maintain the books. So date function will also help you establish this sort of a difference of taking out the gap and giving the instruction to Power BI what is it you want to do. So if you want to take out the some analysis which is related to the you've given the date, what happens is usually typically in an Excel, that date will also be coming with a timestamp. So in a column, you will see there's a date existing, and you will also see some time which is also being captured because it's coming out of the system. The system will also throw in time under which this particular data was captured. So to differentiate that, you will give a date function and you will let the function know that which year or which month you want to do it. So typically Power BI will start giving you the throws of what you want to select. You want to select the month, you want to select the year, or you want to select the date. So you will pick that formula and just place it. That's how it is. End of the month, you do the start date and the month. So it will give you this output which says you've picked up a date, you want to know which has been your the end date. So it will calculate that maturity level. Weekday, you wanted to understand from a date what is the weekday on that particular date. So as per your calendar that you have defined in your system, okay, it will show you the weekday. So you can change this weekday as per different calendars which are there. So maybe UAE would be following a different calendar than US. So that's how the this time date function will going to work for you. Calendar function is something which will give you the calendar. So as I shared a scenario where I said that every location will have a different calendar. So there is also a technique, a syntax, when you will instruct a Power BI which calendar to pick. So if you're doing an analysis for a UAE region, Power BI has a very static calendar in its memory, which is from Jan till December. So if you will do any analysis, if you will tell without doing this calendar function, if you are instructing the Power BI to get you the analysis of previous year and current year, that will only do for a year, okay, or year altogether. So they will do the analysis from Jan till December for both the years. But if you want to do an analysis saying that previous year July till June and this year July till June, you have to establish a calendar under Power BI. So this calendar function, which is syntax you can see on the screen, will help you to define the calendar for Power BI. And here is what you can see under the screen. The easiest way that you can do is pick up from the calendar the date which is specified under your product. So wherever you do the analysis, you can simply, the easiest way is to pick the minimum order date or the maximum order date. So that will actually give you the calendar. So that's the date table that you define, the minimum order date and the maximum order date. This will be the easy formula, but any which ways I will going to give you a formula which can drive you, which can give you the calendar if there are many scenarios. Like if you have 5 countries to do the comparison, then you have to instruct 5 different calendar tables and you have to let the Power BI know which will be the first month and which will be the 12th month. So you can see here, that is what I was talking about when you want to convert the month into the date. So how would you do it? Just as in Excel, if you've used, you give a reference as text, whatever text is, convert it into you give the colons and you convert that text into the month and specify MMM. So it is a similar formula, but little twist in that formula is you write format, because see, if you will see here in the date, it has already taken a timestamp. Okay, so since there is a timestamp, you will not be able to capture the month. So therefore you're using this formula saying that format date table where the date is given into MMM. So anything which is like, if you're giving more than 3 M's, it will give you the whole value. If it is just MMM, then it will give you the first 3. So you must have seen that we write January as Jan. So if you will write MMM, it will convert into Jan, or if you write MMMM, it will pick the whole value. The next is of course the time intelligence function that I was just talking about. If you've got data that you want to analyze over time, it is very easy to do that using Power BI time intelligence function. How do we do it? And what are the scenarios that you do it? So time intelligence is collective name for a set of patterns that can be used to solve time comparison problems. So what is a time comparison? Time comparison is when you do an analysis, you will also showcase what is your month report, what is your quarter report or an yearly report. But at the same time, you will also represent what has happened previous year. So that's what the same period comparison is. What difference will it give you? It will going to show up what has been your growth. Businesses which we are into, like, we are performing, any business for that matter, has some yearly budgets, right? So every budget they will have a difficult target to achieve. Every budget the numbers is going to increase because your work has increased, your market presence has increased, so everything is correlated. So when you are increasing your production or your output or your deliverables, you will compare it from the previous year to let you know whether your growth has signified the costs that you have. So if you have an X value of an cost for the first year, whether your next year Y value justifies your X value or not, so same year comparison comes into the role. That's what the significance of time function or the time intelligence function is. Now that our table is created, let's see how you can find month-to-date sales for a product. Now we are coming to a level where we are actually doing the analysis which is required in any organization. Whenever you are asked to do analysis based on time intelligence functions are to be used. That's the thumb rule. This is what we needed. Total MTD. What has been my month to date? So when you do your analysis, most of it will be comprising of month to date, quarter to date, year to date. So the expression that you will use, and this is an inbuilt formula under Power BI, saying that total MTD. You give an expression saying that this is what the table is, filter that date, filter that particular section and give me the total MTD number. So you can see here in the formula, what we have done is total sales MTD. How we have taken this out is we have given a formula total month to date. So this month to date will start observing the month. How will it pick the month? It will first pick up the total sales column and then it will start figuring out the date column. In the date, you are specifying the date. So with the help of the date function in this, it will start capturing which month I need to showcase this output. On this particular row, you will see there is a date specified here, right? So that's how this will go to have, the Power BI will go to have the understanding of giving you the sales for a month. You have to give this formula total MTD and then give that output. We covered the QTD. Okay. Similarly, as we did the MTD, we do the quarter analysis. So quarter analysis is nothing but a combination of 3 months. So as you've done the calendar understanding to Power BI, the calendar understanding will automatically define the quarter understanding. So if your calendar is starting from July, then your calendar will become July, August, September as a first quarter, October, November, December as a second quarter. But if your calendar says year is starting from January, then January, Feb, March will become your first quarter. So this understanding will be given to Power BI by defining your calendar into Power BI. So that's how you will understand the MTD. Although MTD is pretty simple. So any month it will just give you the MTD numbers. But for QTD, you have to really make the Power BI understand what is your calendar you are following and what is the comparison you want to do with the quarter. Now moving on to the YTD. YTD is again the same function where you are trying to find out what is the YTD sales, the year till date sales. So the shorter name for year till date is this understanding which is already given to Power BI that total YTD means total year till date. So what they are doing is capturing the total sales by giving the sales reference, and then therefore you will define what is my previous year and current year values. So this YTD will going to define your comparison between this year and previous year. But how to do that comparison is a different formula. Just to get what is my, if you want to get on the bar charts, what is my YTD number for the 4 or 5 years together, you will use total YTD measures in the chart. You can see here it is defined as, so basically if you're giving this reference is 30/04, basically it is defining that my year starts from April. So where you have not given a calendar and you want to give this reference, you can write as 30 divided by 4. It will give the reference that my year started from April. This is one of the critical one, guys. Same period last year. Most of your analysis will going to represent. So even if you're doing an e-commerce kind of an analysis for a e-commerce industry, they would certainly want to know what has been my progress from previous year to this year. So once you've defined the table, the calendar, you've defined what has been your year till date, your month till date, etc. Then you will let Power BI know what is my same period last year. So this is also one of the syntax that is used very commonly. In my screen, you will be able to see what has been the formula to calculate my total sales of the previous year. And then what you do is actually you take out the growth. You do the difference between the growth, between the sales of both the year, and then you define what has been my growth. Thanks for your time, guys.